Hey, this is Tamatonga, Bullet Club original OG triple OG triple.
What's up? It's CVV, Chris Van Vliet, and you are listening to the Junkyard.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 17 of PWJ's number one podcast, where you can catch it on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It's the Junkyard. I'm one of your hosts, Spencer Cantor, also known as number 11. You guys know the drill. Join the Dark Order. For those of you that do not know who we are, DDJ, introduce yourselves to these fine and wonderful people that are listening here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is now time for you to crawl up from underneath whatever rock you've been living under and get with the program. My name is Dennis Day Jr., otherwise known as DDJ, the host of Whaddya Say with DDJ that drops every Monday at midnight Central Time as part of the Pro Wrestling Junkies Podcast Network. Well, I got to give the people what they want.
And ladies and gentlemen, what the people want for the 17th time is I, Jovanni to Hotty, El Guapo to Hotty, here to not only give you the hot takes, the hot tags, but the hot looks with the Junkyard and the rest of my hosts.
That's right. And speaking of 17, that is one more than the current record for world championships held by Ric Flair and John Cena. So, hey, we beat them, so we can hold that candle to that. Woo! Woo, indeed. And you can't see me. Guys, how you doing on this Saturday night when we're recording?
Pretty darn good, man. I ain't got no complaints. It's finally starting to warm up here. I know down in Texas it's starting to warm up. Jovanni's got power back.
Yes. Happy to be back in my freaking home, man. I love my family, but Jesus, went a whole week with them, so happy to be home.
All right. Well, now you're back in the Junkyard here to talk some wrestling. So, guys, let's just get into it. And here's what happened this week in wrestling. All right. So, not a whole lot happened this week in wrestling. Kind of a quiet week. There was some big things, but we'll get into all of it this week. Mainly, we're going to be talking about with Raw and SmackDown. Elimination Chamber just happened this past Sunday. So we did talk about that on our prediction show and our reaction show, which you can catch on our YouTube page and then on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad network on Apple, Spotify. So you can check those out, where mainly most of that stuff was already talked about. But we'll go back in from this past week and talk with Raw and SmackDown. So one big thing that came out of Raw is there was supposed to be a match at Elimination Chamber between Lacey Evans and Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. But, guys, we have somebody pregnant in that match, and we got to give a shout out and congratulations to real life pregnant superstar Lacey Evans is going to have her next child. So the Junkyard wishes you congratulations, and it wasn't Ric Flair that knocked her up.
You know, the funny thing is real quick about this is when I heard that angle, that she announced that she's pregnant, I'm like thinking, oh God, no. Like I legit thought like they're turning this into a storyline where Ric Flair is going to be the dad. And then when I saw online, like, no, she's legit pregnant. I'm like, oh, thank God. I love Ric Flair, but no.
How old is Ric Flair right now?
In his, he's in his late 60s, early 70s.
All right, gentlemen, story time real quick, and then we'll get back on the rails. My grandfather had my aunt at the ripe old age of 65. Why, you may ask? Well, my grandfather and grandmother were about 20 years age difference.
Yeah.
He was a very slick-talking man. But what had happened was they lived next to these neighbors, and these neighbors came over to my grandfather's, and the man of the house next door was a little older, and he just found out his wife was pregnant. So we went to my grandfather and said, Menacho, guess what? I got her pregnant. Well, 2 weeks later, my 65-year-old grandfather went next door and said, well, guess what? Mine works too. And that's where you get too hotty from, you guys. That's where basically my craziness comes from, is my grandfather.
Did your grandpa have to take a blue chew?
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if at the ripe old age of 65, he needed a little extra get up. And you know what? Users out there of the junkyard, if you need to put a little extra hitch in your step, if you want to make sure that you are like Space Mountain, to where you can be the oldest ride but still have the longest line, get into the official unofficial sponsor of the junkyard. That is Blue Chew. Just woo!
Woo!
That's thank you for that story, Jovan. It makes a whole lot more sense about how you act here on the junkyard for sure.
You know.
So let's get into the next thing we have here. So as I mentioned before, we had the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that just happened this past Sunday. Miz was supposed to be in that match, but he got pulled out of that match, and instead Kofi actually beat the Miz and got put into the chamber. And then at the end of the night, like the main event on Raw, there was a gauntlet match that had all the competitors, and whoever won got to be the last in the chamber. Sheamus got that victory, so was the last one in the chamber. Did he win? We don't know yet because we're recording on a Saturday night. So go back and watch our reaction show to see how we react to the winner of that match. But with those two things, do you guys think it was the right move to probably put Kofi in and take the Miz out, possibly to keep that cash-in opportunity alive? And do you think with the win, Sheamus maybe got some momentum going into this past Sunday's pay-per-view?
Yes and yes. I think, the Miz taking himself out of the match because he had the Money in the Bank, briefcase. I think that was a pretty smart move. I mean, why would you put yourself through a match of that nature and put all that strain and, wear and tear on your body, and only to, maybe come up short when you have this briefcase to where you can actually after the match is over with, then whoever is standing with the title has been completely beaten down. Miz can walk in there with the briefcase fresh as a daisy and cash it in. So I think that was a brilliant move on his part. And then as for the right call with Sheamus winning the or what was it? The right call with
just like him, I guess, winning the match. And how do you think maybe he just performed? Like I said, because we are recording on a Saturday before the pay-per-view.
So, I think that was the right call too. And obviously made the most sense because it's going to be, the best story because, obviously it's going to come down to Drew versus Sheamus. And, your typical storyline in this is you always have that fresh heel with the baby against the baby face who's, been through the wars and, has had a lot of wear and tear in his body. And it's typical, it's booking 101 and no issues with it there. And I mean, I think Sheamus has been amazing since he's been back in action for returning from his injuries and his time off and stuff and during the COVID area.
Yeah.
I got my first hot take of the evening. I would put Sheamus up there in terms of if you had to rank everybody in the WWE since the pandemic started, Sheamus is in the top 5 in my opinion in terms of guys that have really stepped it up and really done the best since this pandemic started. So I put Sheamus in the top 5, and I think this is a great move, putting him having him be the last man out into the chamber.
You know what, brother? I'm not going to fight you with that. Sheamus has been awesome lately. The resurgence, the pub fighter kind of feel to him. I'm digging it. I agree with everything you said except for one point and one point only that I want to add to it. This is hard for me to buy into a pay-per-view when you just gave me pretty much the exact match for free on Raw. You have 5 out of the 6 competitors in the gauntlet match. So it kind of gives you the feeling that, like you said, it's going to come down to Sheamus and it's going to come down to Drew. So in a way, you're kind of cheapening that match a little bit. I think it's going to end up that way with them two being at the end. And, of course, we know who we all went with during this match. So we'll see how it played out. But to me, it's kind of weird to kind of blow your load a little early and have everybody face off right before the pay-per-view.
Good point. I didn't even really think about that, but it's a great way to analyze this.
Yeah, definitely. Great point to bring up, Jovan. Last thing we got here to mention on Raw. Guys, we got a new 24/7 champion. No more I-95 7-Eleven champion. We now have Bad Bunny as the 24/7 champion, and he actually is appearing on SNL tonight with the 24 championship, where he possibly could lose it tonight. Jovan, I know you've been very critical of Bad Bunny. What do you think about putting the 24/7 title on him now?
This was what the title was made for, in essence. The 24/7 title. And I'm going to try to calm off of my cynicism because I do love the title. I do love R-Truth, and there is a place for comedic wrestling. That's where that point stops. Forward, Bad Bunny is not a wrestler. He is not a legitimate wrestler. He does not train. He does not do this as a profession. He is a glorified mark. A mark, for those of you who are listening, is you listening right now and us talking right now. That is a fan. Us marks do not belong in the ring. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much pull you have. Case in point, look at Snoop Dogg doing the frog splash. Terrible.
Oh,
Terrible.
Now, Bad Bunny is a champion. Rob Gronkowski was a champion.
Doug Flutie was a champion.
Doug Flutie was a champion. So I understand that this belt has no lineage. This belt has no valor. This belt has no prestige. But damn it, stop killing the gimmick and stop making me sound like Jim Damn Cornette because it's pissing me off.
So now we're going to have to call you Cornette too, Hotty?
Please don't.
Jovanni to Cornette.
I'm too cornetty today.
Next thing you know, Jovanni's going to go, thank you, fuck you, goodbye.
I'm going to tell you something right now, DDJ. If you don't get my damn double cheeseburger with double cheese, I'm going to whoop your ass with this racket, boss.
Double cheeseburger.
All right. That's basically everything that happened on Raw. Okay. I didn't think we'd get a Cornette mention here on the Junkyard. This actually might be the first one.
From out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere, like an RKO. So over to SmackDown now. It looks like with everything that happened on SmackDown, we might be getting Edge versus Roman at Mania because Edge took a spear from Roman towards the end of the night. Or that, guys, with Roman facing off at the Elimination Chamber, or actually has faced off against the winner of the SmackDown Elimination Chamber, and more than likely retaining his title, and it's seemingly looking like Edge is going to be going with Roman at Mania. Do you guys think this is the right call, or should be going a different direction?
I in terms of, I think the story, yes, and this is why. Because if it was going to be Edge versus Drew, your crowd's going to be split. If you're going to have Edge versus Finn Balor, assuming Finn Balor's that NXT champion going into WrestleMania, you're going to have a split crowd. Going with Edge versus Roman Reigns, you have your clearly defined roles. That crowd is going to be 100% behind Edge and going to be 100% anti-Roman Reigns. And we're not talking about, the Roman Reigns is pushed down our throats Roman Reigns. Like, this is like, the legit heel Roman Reigns everybody has been asking for and what we've been getting. And he's been doing an amazing job in his role. So in a sense, in terms of what makes the most logical sense when you want to have, a clear baby face and a clear heel in this match, absolutely, this makes the most sense. One thing real quick before I let Jovanni talk. Not only was the promo with Edge versus Roman really good, I love the fact that throughout the episode of SmackDown, you had Edge talking to all the other guys in the chamber. Like, you had him interacting with Daniel Bryan. You had him with King Corbin. You had him, with the stuff with Sami Zayn at the beginning of SmackDown. I mean, just him interacting with every single person in that chamber, I thought was a really nice layer to put on this story.
I'm going to agree with you. It kind of does give you a sense that this is where he's going. This is where he wants to challenge. Are they building up for a possible swerve, making Edge really do all this footwork on SmackDown when he doesn't intend to challenge? I don't think so. I think this is clearly lining up to be Edge and Roman. But I'll counter you with this, DDJ, because you said it gives you a clear one to cheer for, a heel and a face. Will people really boo heel Roman? Because he's getting over. people like us, we love this heel Roman.
Yeah.
Would we be willing to back the comeback story of Edge getting the title he never lost, or would we still be down with heel Roman so much to where we're like, sorry, Edge, but, it's Roman.
And it's a good point. And actually, while you're saying that, it made me think about how WrestleMania is going to be the first event that WWE is going to have fans in attendance for in over a year. I mean, we're talking since middle of March of last year. So by the time WrestleMania hits, we're going to be close to 13 months since the last WWE event that, fans were in attendance for, not counting, the Thunderdome and that. So that is going to be an interesting point. I still fully expect that to be the same. I mean, there's going to be a smattering of people cheering for Roman at the show, but I mean, that's something honestly I did not consider. But I mean, that's so point taken and stuff. We'll just have to wait and see.
I like it.
Yeah, and on WWE television, there hasn't been any fans, but NXT they have been, experimenting with having fans at the Capitol Wrestling Center. So. In a bigger capacity, yes, that will be happening at Mania for sure. So that'll be interesting to see, how it happens, because it's been working with AEW and other promotions that have slowly started allowing fans back in. So I want to talk about
just real quick. Obviously WrestleMania is at Raymond James Stadium where the Super Bowl just was, and I mean, watching that on TV, the way that they had that set up, it really felt like that was a packed stadium. So. Yep. I fully expect, to kind of have that same feeling when watching WrestleMania.
Yeah. So one thing I want to bring up before we move on to our next point, there was a tweet and there was an interaction between Edge and Daniel Bryan, and there was just them on the screen, and those two had come back from a career-ending injuries, and then there was a tweet from Paige saying, maybe one day, with, the praying emoji. Do you guys think with Edge and Daniel Bryan both coming back from career-ending injuries and having resurgences in their careers, do you guys see a possible chance Paige could make a return back into the squared circle?
Jovanni?
I will say slim. I will say a slim chance, but I say it's even slimmer if you wanted to go to the WWE. I think the bridges there have been, I don't want to say completely burned, but they are very shaky. So if we do see Paige, expect her outside the WWE wrestling.
Okay.
I think a lot of the frustration Paige has expressed is probably stemming from the fact that she isn't wrestling or can't wrestle. I mean, I have a feeling if she was still an active competitor, a lot of the issues that she's had with the company wouldn't be the case. So I think this is where a lot of it stems from. I mean, I would love to see her back because, I mean, talk about someone whose career was cut way too short, that ended way sooner than it should have.
Agreed.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know if I could envision her really, if she gets back in the ring, I don't know if I could envision her being really anywhere else and that. So, and that, but I mean, I could see it happening, but I don't know if it would maybe be in her best interest. I mean, I don't know if her neck injury, how it compares to say what Edge dealt with, and then the issues Daniel Bryan had. I'd probably need to see some more information before I could say whether or not I think she should or not. Well, do I want her to? Yes, but I mean, do I think she should? That I can't really answer that right now.
All right.
Just want to get you guys' take on that after seeing that tweet today. Okay, so let's move on. So there was a match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Apollo Crews with Big E on commentary. After the match, Crews was trying to use the steel steps, but Big E got involved, and then Crews started attacking Big E with the steps, and he actually threw him the outside, and it landed on him.
He dropped him, literally just dropped the steps right on him.
Just dropped the steps on him, causing Big E to get injured. So, guys, it looks like we are finally getting that Apollo Crews heel turn we have been begging them to do for months now. Do you think it was the right call finally to do this, even though I think we do all agree it was? And do you think it was possibly just maybe a little too late and should have been done sooner.
Yes and yes. I definitely think it's I mean, as soon as I saw it happen, the first thing as soon as I first read about it last night, and then when I watched it last night before I went to bed, absolutely, I was saying to myself, it's about damn time. But yes, this is something that I don't want to say too little, too late, or too late for this to happen, but I feel like this should have happened a long time ago. And so I'm really anxious to see, because now is the chance that Apollo can really turn his career around and get it trending upward again. So let's just kick back and see. But yeah, absolutely, I definitely think it was the right call to do this.
So I'm going no and yes, and the reason being, I feel like, as we said in our prediction show, they kind of rushed the women's tag team championship onto the card for the pay-per-view.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have had to do that if they didn't take out the Intercontinental Champion. He could have made a title defense at the pay-per-view, and it would have been a little bit more within continuity and a lot less rushed.
Right.
So from that aspect, I don't feel like it was the right time. Now, for Apollo Crews, they needed to do this sooner rather than later. We have been calling for it. We need some refresh of this character. The man is a hell of a worker. He does things that people with his body size normally don't do. So give him some gumption, give him some heat, make him a heel, because unfortunately, Apollo Crews, what you do in the ring and your abilities physically do not match with your mouth game. You cannot talk. That is a known fact. Unfortunately, you are boring as boring gets when you want to speak. So go out there and pull a Bobby Lashley. Don't talk, wreck shop, and you will be successful. Ooh, Nation, I am talking to you, my brother from the Indies. That is Apollo Crews before he was in the WWE. Ooh, Nation was beloved because he went out there, did insane moves, and got out of Dodge. In the Indies, you're able not to have an actual gimmick, just put on great matches, because people won't see you next week. Now that you're in the big leagues, you have to develop this character. And for you, since you can't talk, you just need to be a destroyer. Go out there, destroy, save your career.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too, but isn't this really wasn't this episode of SmackDown like the first time that they really went into his background about where he came from?
I believe so.
Okay. So I kind of wonder if maybe that kind of was maybe a little bit of a foreshadowing.
Maybe. So yeah, we definitely agreed. Right call on turning Apollo Crews heel, but it should have happened a lot sooner for sure. So last thing here, guys, our favorite sommelier to one, Carmella Reginald, finally got his first W in a 6-man tag match with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair versus your WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Bayley after the Ding Dong Hello segment. We've talked extensively about the Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks versus Nia and Shayna on our prediction show, so I don't think we need to run that in the ground anymore. Totally rushed. This match honestly should not be happening. It's mainly just for the build with Sasha and Bianca to maybe a little more tension there. Thoughts on this before we move on?
Reginald is super talented, and I mean, I really hope this is just the beginning for him.
Yeah.
Eventually, once he breaks away from Carmella, I hope they give him a chance to kind of go out on his own, because he's won me over.
All right.
He's super talented in the ring. His Cirque du Soleil training really pays off. He doesn't look like, when he's talking on the mic, he doesn't look nervous. He looks like someone that's actually been doing this for a while. So it's something that you don't see a lot in, with these rookies, or even some of the veterans. I mean, Reginald sounds very polished, and I think a lot of that has to do with his, Cirque du Soleil, because he's outperforming in front of crowds and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of one of those things that comes in really handy. So yeah, I absolutely. Well done. Congrats to Reginald for getting that all-important first W. And, I think that we're only just beginning with him.
I couldn't agree more about Reginald. I do want to see where they take him. I do want to see him eventually become his own wrestler. He has done the work. It does show because you don't come in just being that polished. He's at least put some time into this. His moves look good because of his background of where he came from in the Cirque du Soleil, like DDJ mentioned. But, gentlemen, I'm going to take this time not to talk about Reginald, not to talk about this match, but to talk to one Bailey.
Oh, boy.
According to recent reports that came out today, which is Saturday when we're recording this show, one Bailey and her now former fiance, Aaron, what is it, Solo?
Solo.
There you go, that guy, have decided that they are in different parts in their life right now and that it's probably best for them to move on separately. So, Bailey, I don't know if Arrow's problem was Blue Chew related. Because if you ask me, no one should have issues and need the unofficial official sponsor of the Junkyard when you're talking about the hugger, Bailey. And Bailey, maybe it wasn't necessarily Blue Chew was the issue, but maybe it was a little bit of unkeptness. Maybe he suffered from needing to use our second unofficial sponsor of the Junkyard, and that is Manscaped with the Lawnmower 3.0. Maybe he was a little bit too jungle where the boys are. But either way, Bailey, this is me shooting my shot. If you want me to, I will put Aaron Solo on the same list as Mr. Jorge Conti. Jorge, I'll get to you later tonight. And if I need to go through him to get to you, this is Jovanni Too Hotty letting you know, Bailey, they don't call me Too Hotty for nothing. And I will show you the 4 most seductive letters in all of wrestling. That is the W-O-R-M.
Oh, yeah.
Dig it.
Oh, all right.
Sexual chocolate, Mark Henry, eat your heart out.
That's right.
Yeah, we got our
Where's
own
Mae Young at?
Mae Young's been dead for a few years.
Oh,
I take it
RIP,
back.
Mae Young. As long as there's no hand that appears unknown, we're good.
There's going to be another hand birth, and Giovanni's going to be the daddy.
Damn right. It's going to be a Too Hotty hand. It's going to come out like this.
Oh, God. Anything else you guys want to talk about in the E before we move on to Tuesday nights?
Let's
I'm
move
good.
on to Tuesday nights.
Tuesday night. All right. Tuesday night, Impact Wrestling, a show a lot of people still aren't watching. But
Why aren't they watching?
They
But
just
hey.
had their second most viewership last week, though.
yeah, so the viewers are going up, but not crazy numbers, but they are going up. But I'm one of those people that doesn't watch Impact, or at least tries to watch Impact. So guys, I'm going to let you guys take this one here and tell the people what happened on Impact. I heard there was an amazing match to start the show.
Giovanni, you know what? I know you were really hyped on this match. Take it away.
I am such a fanboy for Impact Wrestling, for TNA, whatever you want to call it. I've been there since TNA NWA days. So Impact, special place in my heart. You guys watch it. Viewers are going up. The matches are amazing. Just to give you a peek into what we're talking about, the match that started this show this week is a bona fide pay-per-view quality, bless you, DDJ, match. This match was for the X Division title. They had Mr. Alexander going against TJP. And, of course, Mr. Alexander won that right to go against TJP in the 6 revolver shooter match from the past pay-per-view from Impact. So when I tell you this match had everything, and this match, and on paper, it shouldn't have been as good as it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because on paper, these guys have completely different styles. TJP is the X Division's heartbeat. He's the high flyer, crazy moves. Josh Alexander is that super mat wrestling, comes out with the damn earmuffs and your bruiser style. Yeah, normally those matches go one of two ways. The high flyer jumps around the ring and the bruiser kind of gets stuck looking crazy, or the bruiser goes in there and just runs roughshod and the high flyer is grounded and gets beaten down, and you kind of just feel like, okay, that was a waste. No. TJP took it to Josh Alexander on the mat. They're mat wrestling, back and forth, catch wrestling, chain wrestling, whatever you want to call it, was crisp. Every move in this match was hard. If you like NJPW and that strong style, this match reeked of it. I can't put it over enough. This, I'm going to go ahead and blow my load fast, which we do on the Junkyard. This was my match of the week. It started off Impact very well. Pay-per-view quality. You don't get any better for free TV.
I couldn't have said it. I couldn't have really summed that match up any better than Jovanni just did. It was just that's a match that could have either started the show, but it could have easily ended the show and had people just wow. And
yes.
I mean, if anything, I've always thought of Josh Alexander as the modern day Rick Steiner.
Ooh.
Not just because of the headgear, but he's got that that tough shooter style, the brawler, and that who can actually go. But Josh Alexander really showed that he is, X Division, material. I think one of our biggest, and if you guys disagree with me, please let me know. But I feel like that this feeling amongst the three of us when they split up the North, that Josh Alexander was going to kind of get lost in the shuffle, stuff. But if anything, he's been given this opportunity and he has made been as good with this opportunity as you can get. He's really shown a different side of himself, added some new moves to his repertoire, and he's wrestling a whole different style, not only going from tag to singles, but also, in the highly competitive X division where a lot of the guys there, are like TJP, where they're just fast and going all over the place. I hope this leads to more of a good singles run for Josh. And I hope eventually, he's proven that he is X Division championship material. And I hope he somehow finds his way, into the title in the near future. I couldn't get anything else. I can't say anything else about this match because I would just be rehashing what Jovanni just said.
All right. Definitely, if you didn't get a chance to check this match, go check it out for sure. Jovan already said that's his Junkyard Pick of the Week. Maybe might hear that again for some other people's Junkyard Picks of the Week.
Maybe. Keep on listening and find out.
That's right. So next up, we had a big four-way match between Trey Miguel, Willie Mack, Suicide, and Daivari. Trey Miguel got the win in this four-way match. This is another big win for him after announcing he's staying with Impact Wrestling. Guys, where do you think they're going with Trey Miguel, and what's the future you see for him in Impact?
Well, it looks like they're intertwining him along with Sami Callihan because and I know they've had some history or the time because I believe Trey Miguel has done some matches with Sami's promotion, the Wrestling Revolver. So there's some history there, but I think they're trying to I think Sami's trying to break down Trey Miguel in a manner kind of like what he did to Eddie Edwards a couple years ago, where he basically drove Eddie mad and turned him, into the Eddie Edwards that we see now.
Right.
I mean, Sami's always worked better when he's had someone under his influence. Look at what, with Ken Shamrock. Look what he had with OVE back in the day, and now I think he's trying to do the same thing with Trey Miguel. I think he's trying to break Trey down to kind of get him under his wing. I don't expect Trey to fall under the spell, come into this his singles run with like he feels like he has to prove that he doesn't need, he doesn't need Wesley and Nash Carter, what they're going by now. He doesn't need the Rascals. He can do this on his own. So I think that's where we're going. And I definitely think somewhere down the line we're going to see Sami Callihan and Trey Miguel go at it one-on-one.
Okay.
Definitely the build they're going with, the man. Definitely where they're going right now. The funny thing is that Trey Miguel won that four-way match, was setting up, seeding for the X Division. Number one, I want to know the steroids guy that Arya Davari uses because Davari came out looking jacked. Can I get some of those steroids? Because Jesus, he looked jacked. But strong showing for Trey Miguel. Great match. Like DDJ said, they have this thing with him and Sami Callihan. They also kind of have this thing where they could position him to maybe make a legitimate run at the X Division title. It depends where they want to take it. Maybe they do a compound of it, have Trey Miguel win the title while Sami Callihan's in the back of his mind and the back of his ear just talking crap. And maybe that's the big payoff between them two as a match for the belt. Or maybe they just focus on one thing and go the other. I'm down either way. Trey Miguel's putting on some great matches right now. There's a lot of intrigue having him back. And it just builds more upon why he made the right choice coming back to Impact.
Yep.
Okay. So next up on our Impact notes, we had some New Japan flair in the Impact Zone this past week with the arrival of Juice Robinson and David Finlay. Finn Juice from New Japan Pro Wrestling, who took on Reno Scum, got the win. Then afterwards, the Good Brothers came in, talked to him, said, hey, you guys are still young boys back from 2015. You really don't matter. There was a little bit of, interaction between those two. Guys, what's the kind of the future? Where do you see Finn Juice fitting in the Impact? And do you see them possibly maybe going for those Impact tag team titles against the Good Brothers?
I love the fact that, they brought up, I love the hype package that they had for Finn Juice showing, clips and pictures from their time in New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of helps give, people who are watching Impact that may not have watched New Japan before, kind of gives them a little bit of an idea of what they're about to see. And then, you have the Good Brothers coming out after Finn Juice gets the win and bringing up their past history, in New Japan, where Juice Robinson and David Finlay were young boys and kind of going through the ranks, and that. And I love the promo that I believe Juice Robinson cut after, saying, we're more than these young boys, and remember, we've gotten better. It's like I thought it was a great way to introduce the Impact crowd to Finn Juice. Got a great win, and I definitely see these two clashing for the Impact Tag Team titles in the near future.
To take it a step farther, DDJ, Finn Juice, when Juice Robinson did his promo, he didn't just tell the big OG Doc Gallows that, hey, we're not the same Finn Juice that we were. He told him we actually were the champions over there like you were too. So put some respect on my name. Put some respect on our name, Finn Juice. These guys coming over to Impact from NJPW for whatever this Forbidden Door thing was, phenomenally done. They gave you the sense that this was a big deal, that this tag team Finn Juice was coming from Japan and they were a force to be reckoned with, that they are an actual elite team, which they are. Mind you, they won the tag team tournament. They won the titles. This is no slouches. These guys have beaten everybody from the GOD to all the other serious tag teams in New Japan. Don't sleep on Finn Juice. They are going to get the chance to exercise some ghosts from their past when they run into the Good Brothers, maybe for the titles, maybe not for the titles. But that has to be the way they're going. Give Finn Juice some retribution against people who basically call them their bag boys, their young boys. Let them know it's not like that anymore. You can't bully us. We're big time too.
All right. I'm probably one of the people that when the first Finn Juice formed, I was like, okay, what are they doing? What's this tag team? Because, David Finlay, he was like, whatever. But I definitely am liking what they're doing with Finn Juice now. And I'm very excited to see what they do with him in the future, especially if they have a match with the Good Brothers and especially all that history they brought up too. So last thing we have here, Jovan, we got some Moose talk here, so I'm just going to let you take this one away because we know you have an undying love for Moose.
So, apparently, somebody didn't like the fact that Moose wreck shopped after their title match when the old man shouldn't have really even got a title match, but we're going to leave that one alone. And Moose was like, okay, you don't like it, do something about it. Tommy Dreamer did something about it and said it's going to be an old school rules match, which everyone knows is just basically an ECW rules match.
Mm-hmm.
And for what this match was, It was very, very good.
Yep.
Tommy Dreamer, at his advanced age, even though I joke because I'm a Moose Mark, he can go. Nobody is ever going to say Dreamer can't go. The man still has it. He's never lost it. He made Moose look good for all the damage he was doing to Moose, all the table spots, all the cane spots, all the chair spots, everything. But what this did was make Moose look strong.
Yep.
The whole point of this match was for Tommy Dreamer to pull out all these old school tricks, to pull out the tables, pull out the canes, pull out the chairs, inflict all the damage he could in a losing effort so Moose still looks strong. They're building up the future Impact Heavyweight Champion, the current TNA Heavyweight Champion. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be until this whole invasion, crossover, AEW stuff is done. But I guarantee you this. Moose will be recognized as the Impact Heavyweight Champion very, very soon. The man looks great. His ring work is great. And they are taking the time to build in why he is the best.
Yeah, the last few months, Moose has completely won me over. I officially became a Moose fan after his performance at Hard to Kill, where he was clearly the star in that match, and he's just keeps on going and going and just climbing up ever so higher on that ladder. And excuse me, like Jovanni said, he will be Impact Champion sooner rather than later, and he will be the man in that company. That being said, Tommy Dreamer gets it. Like, he is one of very few people in the professional wrestling business that gets it. He's had his time, but he knows that right now he is there to get people like Moose, like Rich Swann, over and help them get to the next level. He did that with Rich Swann at No Surrender. He just did that again with Moose on Impact. He gets it, and it just he deserves so much. He deserves so much love for understanding. He doesn't have an ego. He does what's best for business. And I mean, he's just an awesome dude. That being said, yeah, Moose looked amazing. Moose looked strong. Moose looked like the legit threat, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Moose is going to get that title match with Rich Swann, and what's going to happen, we'll just have to wait and see. But regardless of what happens, when that match happens, somehow, some way, Moose will be champion very, very soon.
Yes, and to double down real quick before we move on Tommy Dreamer, there's only one wrestler I've ever heard of who never wanted to win a major title because they believe their character was better as being the consummate underdog, as always being the chaser, never being the champion, and that was Tommy Dreamer, because he understood the need and the want to put people over. So hats off again to Dreamer.
I tip my cap if I was wearing one.
We all tip our caps here on the Junkyard to Tommy Dreamer, who looks like he's going to be stepping away from Impact Wrestling for a little while. So if you need to take some time to recover, go do that. 50-year-old this past week. So go take care of yourself.
Get ran over by a moose. They'll give you a week off.
Also, real quick, since we're talking about Tommy, guys, be sure if you have Sirius XM Satellite Radio, go to channel 156 from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern every Monday through Friday to listen to Busted Open. Tommy Dreamer is usually on there on Wednesdays with Dave LaGreca. They always have a lot of those are my favorite shows because they talk a lot of old school wrestling when Tommy's on. And Tommy's such a fan. He's not only an amazing wrestler, he's a huge fan of professional wrestling and its shows. So get guys, if you have Sirius XM, go put on channel 156 Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time to listen to him talk, and you'll be enthralled by some of the stories and his views on wrestling.
All right, LaGreca, now it's time to pay it forward. Come on the Junkyard. Give us a boost, baby. We just put y'all over. Do the job. Do the job, LaGreca.
do the job, LaGreca. And guys, just you can go listen to Busted Open, but please make sure you guys listen to The Junkyard, which drops every Tuesday on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad Network, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, because that's on Wednesday. So don't forget where you heard it first. All right, moving on to Wednesday night. NXT is coming off the heels of a pretty good show at NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day from Valentine's Day. The big story coming out of it was kind of the end of the Undisputed Era when Adam Cole super kicked Balor, and then he super kicked Kyle O'Reilly, basically ending the Undisputed Era. So we got some follow-up to that. At the beginning of the show, Kyle wanted some answers from Adam. He wasn't giving them to him. Balor came out and kind of said to O'Reilly, hey, you set me up. Then Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, Pete Dunne all came out, attacked everybody, and then Regal set the main event. It was Kyle O'Reilly, Finn Balor, Roderick Strong versus Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch. Then going into that main event, then Adam Cole comes out. Towards the end, he attacks O'Reilly, which actually leads to some other stuff that happens afterwards. And there was one point where everybody was saying, oh, maybe Kyle O'Reilly was so bad because he has a history of being diabetic, and he was like having seizures and everything, but that didn't turn out to be the case. But anyways, the opposite team, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch go over this team. But we're far from done with the Undisputed Era, the drama there, Finn Balor. Definitely a lot to build. Guys, we talked about it on our TakeOver reaction show. But what's your kind of feeling after seeing this on NXT this week? And where do you see all of this going, like between Adam Cole, O'Reilly, Balor, Roderick Strong, and then, of course, with Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, all that mix? Where is this all going?
So, Junkyard Junkies, I do apologize, but I pulled a Spencer this week. I did not watch NXT. So, DDJ, I leave them in your very capable hands.
So, one of the things that I took from this was I loved Kyle O'Reilly's promo. Like when he was waiting out in the parking lot, he was waiting for Adam Cole. Roddy's trying to calm him down, and Adam's like, I don't know who to believe or what's going on. Like he was almost like he was still in shock, like he was in disbelief that his brother, his stablemate, his tag team partner, did this to him, and he just wanted answers. He wanted to talk to Adam, and like I said, the one thing I really like about this is we really don't know where Roderick Strong fits into the equation.
Right.
And that's great. It's not like, he's not taking sides. It's like he's really caught in the middle of all this because, these are two guys that he's been up and down the roads with. He was actually tag team champions with Kyle O'Reilly for a little while, and he obviously competed alongside Adam Cole in the Dusty Cup this year. So I think that's going to be one thing, but I really like this. I'm intrigued, because it's not only just, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. You got, where does Roderick Strong fit in the equation? And also, where does Finn Balor play into all of this? It's so good because nobody really knows what's going on. Now, coming up tomorrow night on NXT, because this obviously drops on Tuesday, so we're going to hear an explanation from Adam Cole as to why he did what he did. And from what Adam Cole sent out on Twitter, guys, this is going to be a must watch, to see what Adam Cole really says. And I can't wait. I'm intrigued by this, and it's like I really don't know what to expect.
All right, so yeah, definitely check out NXT if you don't already. Maybe Jovan will actually watch some wrestling this week.
I just didn't watch one show out of everything that was on this week, including 3 events tonight.
Yeah, I know. Spencer, but you might want to look in the mirror before you call people out about not watching wrestling.
Started with the man in the mirror.
All right. Moving on with a little more NXT. So on the TakeOver Vengeance Day pay-per-view, Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai won their respective Dusty Cup women's final and will be going against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. There was a showdown. Yes, they are still champs. Well, more than likely they will be. But so those two had a face-off on NXT from this past week. So with them more than likely still being the champs, because there's more than likely no way Sasha and Bianca are winning those titles after this thrown together match, is there any hope for Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez to win those tag titles off Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax? Are the tag titles coming to NXT?
Bold prediction, yes. I think they're coming to NXT.
I would double on that.
I'll triple on it too. I want it.
Because Raquel Gonzalez is being positioned to be the next big thing in the NXT women's division. She's taking over that spot that used to be Rhea Ripley's, now that Ripley has moved on to the main roster. Raquel Gonzalez schooled everybody in that promo. I mean, she clearly looked like, she knew what she was talking about. And the thing that really I took away from most of that is her promo did not sound scripted at all. She sounded like she was just like, these are the bullet points, get these across, go out there and say whatever. I mean, natural. I mean, this was like her first, I think, real time experience on the mic, or at least for an extended period of time. And I thought she knocked it out of the park. Grand slam, clear the bases. She got all of that one. And yeah, I really think we're gonna see new women's tag team champions. And one thing I loved about that segment was Beth Phoenix and MSK just kind of casually sitting in the background, pulling a New Day, and just munching on some popcorn while these two teams went at it. And the one thing I loved about it too is we got a reference to my hole.
I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm not gonna do it to you, Spencer. It's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any thoughts, Jovan, on that?
They would be dumb not to give these two the titles, but WWE has been done before, but I don't think they're this dense.
That's it for NXT, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about. I guess just to Dennis.
I got one thing I just added into our notes as you were talking about it, man.
Oh, God. Yes. Go ahead, DDJ.
Cameron Grimes. He is the new age $1 million man. And I love it. I love this new gimmick. I've been a fan of Cameron Grimes for years, but man, my fandom just went up a couple of notches with this. I love the fact that he is just throwing the money around. I love the fact that they took what happened with GameStop and just made a tweak to Cameron Grimes' character, and it is working for him. He needs to have this. This can't be a 1 week, 2 week thing. Then, he loses all of his money. He needs to have this character for a while because it is working.
I want to see him lose his money now.
Oh, I want to see him lose it all.
Lose his money. I want to see him take some of that money, build a rocket ship, and take it straight to the moon.
To the moon.
All right, now I'm good. I got that out of my system.
All right. Well, we had to give DDJ his time to put over his new love fest there. Moving on to AEW. Pretty good show on this week. We'll talk about a few things that happened here. First thing, Hangman and Matt Hardy faced off against TH2. Hangman and Matt Hardy got the win. And then the contract was revealed, the switcheroo and everything, that Hangman actually signed it to have a match against Matt Hardy at Revolution. And they put it where it was going to be like a big money match where whoever wins gets, I think, 10% or whatever percentage it was of the first quarter earnings of.
I think it was 25.
25% of the winnings are, whatever they earn in the first quarter of the year, especially with the action figures coming up, that definitely could be a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And then the mascot for the Jaguars, who turned out to be
Isaiah Cassidy.
Isaiah Cassidy. I get too mixed up sometimes. Isaiah Cassidy came out, but then he attacked Hangman. But then the greatest thing in the world happened. And if you watch the pre-show, there was a moment between the Dark Order and Alex came into the lair. And then they were saying, like, hey, with everything going on, we kind of need to switch the direction. Instead of being like focusing on the dark of the Dark Order, we need to focus on the order part of it and kind of be like a positive. So it was basically a face turn on the pre-show, even though it was coming with everything. But this basically solidified that this team went full face. They helped Hangman. I definitely see them getting involved in the pay-per-view match because it was made official for the match at Revolution against Hangman and Matt Hardy, the Big Bunny match. I definitely see them possibly getting involved in this. So the thing between Hangman and the Dark Order is not over yet. I don't think now Hangman will join, but I think there is a mutual respect between them now. And I really, really like the direction they're going with this. I love everything they're doing with Matt Hardy and Hangman, especially with the Dark Order now. Now, that's me not spending 5 minutes praising the Dark Order like I did on our prediction show from last night, but I just love the direction this is going now. What are y'all's thoughts on it?
Oh, I'd like to hear Jovanni's thought, but I think you put him to sleep.
What? Are we done with the Dark Order segment now?
Also, I'm going to say, and then I want to hear Jovanni's take before I get mine, but just real quick, I want to say, I hope to God Hangman Page joins the Dark Order because I don't want to listen to another 10, 15-minute rant by Spencer about how much he hates Adam Page because,
Spencer is pulling the ultimate ex-girlfriend. 1 week he hates Adam Page. The next week he loves Adam Page. The 1 week after that he's going to hate him again. It's a very, very crazy trope that we're going through with Spencer and the Dark Order.
Jovanni, real quick. It's like, when you would get the flower and you would pull the petals off. Spencer does that. I love Hangman Page. I love him not. I love Hangman Page. I love him not.
I will give him this, man. He's at least committed now that he's a full-fledged member. If you guys didn't catch the last episode of our predictions, he is officially recognized as in everybody else in the 2.3 million who probably went to the Dark Order website, but it's something special to him. Damn it. I love this direction that they're going, making the Dark Order more face because that's what they are on BTE. That's how they've gotten over. It's a good way to go. Hangman, definitely there's something there still. People love Hangman. People are loving the Dark Order. The two are coming into alignment. We'll see what happens. But overall, Hangman and Money Matt doesn't really make sense. Maybe just as a means to push Hangman's story to the Dark Order. We'll see. Maybe he loses and it takes him enough to where it's like, hey, I need to join the Dark Order. Maybe the Dark Order makes him win and he's like, oh, well, I'm pro Dark Order. There's lots of ways to do this. So I am interested to see where they take it. And that's all I'm going to give the Dark Order because I don't know how the hell we started with the Dark Order on the AEW portion of the show. But DDJ, take it away.
Yeah, I don't know how we started. Well, actually, I know how we started with it. Spencer's the host, so he's playing it was a little bit of a power trip there. But
whoa! Before you say anything, I gave Jovan his time to shoot a shot at Bailey and talk moves. I gave you your time to talk Cameron Grimes. You guys already know I'm on the Dark Order train, so just that's the way the cookie crumbles on here.
The only difference is Spencer. Jovanni got his time to shoot a shot with Bailey during the time we talked about Bailey in the order format. I threw in Cameron Grimes after we got done talking about our stuff that we discussed on NXT. You just took it upon yourself to change the format of the show and be like, oh, it's an AEW time. I'm going to talk about the Dark Order now. But,
that's the first thing that happened on the show, so I talked about it. All right.
We had in our format sheet. So
well, things change.
Yeah.
Card subject to change. All right, so moving on to AEW, there was a big moment that happened, or semi big. Guys, Sting took a bump. So Team Taz comes out, Sting comes out, and it's Brian Cage, Hook, and Taz.
Yep.
Luke Hobbs, or not Luke Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs.
Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah, Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks couldn't be there because of the inclement weather going on. So hopefully they're okay and can make it to the pay-per-view or more Dynamites. But then Sting came out with no backup, and then Brian Cage lifts him up and gives him a power bomb, and you just see this shot from the top of the camera, and it just shows on Sting, and he's just like, what? Why did I do that? So, guys, with Sting finally doing something more than just staying in the background talking, breaking windows, are you any more invested in this match or Sting in general in AEW?
I am a little, because it's like, okay, we finally seen him take a bump, which is something that needed to happen. So because it's going to make me want to tune in the match to see what he's going to do, like what kind of moves he's going to get off, what kind of bumps he's going to take. One thing though that I think this accomplished is something that sorely needed to happen a long time ago, is it got Brian Cage over. Like he hasn't done anything since, really anything of note, since he debuted in AEW. And I believe it was Double or Nothing, the casino ladder match.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Bully Ray said it best on Busted Open on Thursday when he said that is the most over Brian Cage has been, because, I mean, he can go out there and say, I powerbombed Sting, I took him out, and that. So, but obviously, Sting, from all accounts, Sting seems to be okay after the bump. We haven't heard anything, that, he was, he's done or whatever. But so it's got me thinking, he could take a power bomb from Brian Cage. What is he going to do in this match? So I'm a little bit more invested in this match.
This is why I love AEW. And I'm not backpedaling from what I said last week when I bashed Sting, but I am changing a slight stance.
Ooh.
AEW gets the fans. What did they do this week? They made that stupid meme of Sting looking cross-eyed in the middle of the ring canon. They saw that. They made that bump. So now it's real. Yes. Take your first bump and realize that you're 60-something cross-eyed and Sting is canon in AEW because they get it. Now, peek behind the curtain. You would find out that the ring was a little gimmicked with some extra powder, with a little bit extra padding, so they can really pull off that heinous of a power bomb, because it was a motherfucker of a power bomb.
Yeah,
it wasn't a normal power bomb. He put some stink in there. And you find out that the ring had a little extra padding, and that Sting was wearing some extra padding so he can really take that bump fully. That gives me hope for two reasons. Number one, not only did AEW go to take the precise measures needed so Sting could take a hellacious bump and make sure it looked as good as it could, but number two, Sting said, hell yes, let this beast of a man power bomb me with all his might as long as it's safe. And that's what they did. Yep. So, Sting, damn it. We're like a bad relationship. When I want to leave, I can't. Let's see what you do at the pay-per-view.
All right. I honestly did not know about that Sting in the ring, so it was very interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Jovan. I think probably a lot of our listeners didn't know that as well. So thank you for sharing that insight. So your kind of relationship with Sting is sort of like we talked about it just a few minutes ago. My relationship with Adam and Paige, on and off again. So it'll probably be off again next week.
Oh, you little faith.
Yeah. So moving on, we had a fantastic match in the women's eliminator tournament to see who's going to face off in the finals with USA Japan, with the winner going against Shida for the AEW women's title at Revolution. We had returning Riho, the first ever AEW women's champion, versus the NWA women's champion Serena Deeb. This was a hell of a match. They went back and forth. There were times when you thought it was going to be over, lots of false finishes, great athleticism, creative pins and moves and everything. But in the end, Riho goes over Serena Deeb and will be moving on to face Thunder Rosa on the USA side of the bracket. First off, welcome, Riho. You've been gone for a very long time, wrestling in Japan. Now you're back in the USA on Dynamite, so welcome back. And has Riho lost her luster? And how far do you see her going in this tournament?
If you're asking me, has she lost her luster? No, because if anything, her return to AEW couldn't have been any better. This was easily Riho's best match in AEW since she's been a part of the company. Her matches with Nyla Rose were really good. The one where she won the title, became the first AEW Women's Champion, and even the match where she dropped the title to Nyla Rose, were both really good. But that was like, say, here, the match against Serena Deeb was like up here, and that. So I don't think this could have gone out any better. And just real quick, guys, if you haven't seen the first round of the Japanese bracket of this women's eliminator tournament, go check it out on YouTube. All 4 matches were amazing. We got to see people that we're familiar with, in Aja Kong and Emi Sakura, Yuka Sakazaki. But there were a lot of new faces that were a part of this tournament. One in particular that I really liked, and I hope to see more of her, is Maki Ito, the pop singer. She was probably like my favorite out of all the women that were on the Japanese side of the bracket. So, guys, please go watch it up because it is some really good stuff.
How far do you think Riho gets on her side?
Well, I believe she's got Thunder Rosa next, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
I don't think she's going to get past Thunder Rosa. I think Thunder Rosa is going to get her because I think the final on the women's side is going to be Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, and that. So I see Rio's run coming to an end in her match against Thunder Rosa.
I'm going to double down with you, man. I think that's where it's going to go, too. I think Riho's going to put on a great match with Thunder Rosa. I do see her losing that match so we can get Rosa versus Britt Baker, too. This is probably going to be the one where Britt Baker really goes over en route to a championship win. We'll see what happens. But speaking on Riho, man, you hit it out of the park. She was missed. The AEW women's roster has seen a resurgence. Amazing talents have been developing in front of our eyes, a la a Anna Jay, a Tay Conti, Penelope Ford. Yes. These ladies have shown in past weeks they can really go. And Riho was the first to really put the banner out there for the company's women's division as being the first champion. Having her back, we're going to get a lot of classic matches that we didn't think that we wanted because at the time the division wasn't ready for. Now that the division is more adept to cover some of these big matches with her, I'm excited to see where her future is. But I agree with you once again. I do see her losing to Thunder Rosa, setting up that big rubber match between her and Britt Baker in the finals.
One thing I really want to that's an amazing thing about a stat about Riho. I believe she's 23.
Yep, really young.
She's been in the wrestling business for 14 years. She's 23 and she's a 14-year veteran, which means she started professional wrestling at the age of 9.
Yeah.
And that's just, when I first heard that, my mind was blown. So I just think that's just shout out to Riho for basically dedicating her entire life to professional wrestling.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So after that amazing match, we got another amazing match to talk about, and that was the AEW tag team match between the Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz, Pride and Powerful. This match was a banger. Both teams put up a hell of a fight. Santana Ortiz looked amazing in this match. Honestly, I wish they did a hell of a lot more with them. They have not gotten the respect. They needed or deserve in AEW. Possibly, with Sammy Guevara leaving the Inner Circle, maybe they could be eventually leading down the road. There's rumors that maybe one former Selena Vega, Thea Trinidad, might be making her way to AEW, maybe possibly managing Santana Ortiz to a possible AEW championship or AEW tag team championship. So we could see that. But in the end, the Young Bucks do go over Santana Ortiz and retain the tag team titles en route to their tag team title match with Chris Jericho and MJF at Revolution. Guys, what did you think about the match and thoughts on Santana and Ortiz? And am I on the right track? Like, does this team deserve more love than they have been getting in the past?
Absolutely. I'm going to double down on that. I definitely, this match proved, if anything, is that proud and powerful, not pride and powerful, which is what you said earlier.
Sorry, proud and powerful.
Get it
Pride
right.
and prejudiced.
But no, anyway, this match proved that Santana and Ortiz should get a run with the AEW tag team titles down the road. Honestly, I think it should have happened already. But I mean, it just proved that these guys are every bit as talented as we all knew they were when they showed up unannounced at AEW's All Out back in 2019. And it's about time to see them finally get a chance at the tag team titles, with the fact that this was their first title match after, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Or a year and a half. Totally amazing. And I'm going to also double down with you in the fact that I definitely could see Thea Trinidad managing Proud and Powerful, because I think they are going to be the next ones to leave the Inner Circle. And bold prediction here is if that happens, that partnership happens, Thea Trinidad will lead Proud and Powerful to the AEW tag team titles.
I love it. I'm doubling down with all of that. All of it. Check yes. Leave the Inner Circle. Proud and Powerful deserves to be tag team champions. These men were phenomenal in Impact. These men have been phenomenal everywhere they've gone. They are tag team specialists. And to be where they are now, that this was their first time getting a tag team title opportunity, they had a great showing and they came up short. Nothing to bat an eye at. You win against one of the best tag teams in the Young Bucks. A generational tag team. Nothing to bat an eye at, like I said. But it is time for a restart. The Inner Circle is starting to crumble. Give us the Santana and Ortiz of old. Thea Trinidad, have her come in. Give us an LAX type stable. Guys, you have all the makings for a killer LAX stable. Why are we not doing it? Thea Trinidad, Proud and Powerful, throw in Eddie Kingston, throw in the Lucha Brothers. This is a mega freaking stable like it should have been. It's maybe time to restart, get these guys looking legitimate, shake the world up. But I do need to see gold on these two gentlemen. Not only because they're some of my favorites, not only because they're Puerto Rican like I am, but because, damn it, they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And one last thing. It wouldn't be an episode of The Junkyard without putting somebody on my list.
Of course.
Oh, here we go.
Talking about Thea Trinidad, whose last name is actually Thea Budgeon, because she is married to one Tom Budgeon, who all of you may know as Aleister Black of the WWE. Aleister Black, my man, you just made the list.
How have we not had him on the list already?
We haven't gotten to talk about Zelina Vega or Thea.
A lot of times we just pull these names completely. It's completely random. How has that not gotten brought into this discussion?
WWE is not doing anything with Aleister Black.
Yeah, I kind of forgot he's still on a WWE contract because he hasn't been on TV. So,
what a crime!
It's a very big crime. And yes, I definitely
opposite the track though, because they're total different people.
Yeah, but she did say, I think on an interview, that's kind of her type. So, hey, congrats to them and everything they've
More power
been through.
to Mr. Black.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
My man, our man. Okay, so moving on. Santana and Ortiz definitely deserve to get gold on their waist. I am loving everything you're saying, Jovan, about that big, powerful faction. Inner Circle probably will disband completely by the end of the year, honestly, the way they're going. And then, they got their figures coming out finally, the first ones of Santana and Ortiz in Wave 4 coming out very soon in the AEW Unrivaled collection. Can't wait for those. So great things on the horizon for those two gentlemen. Moving on here, just a quick mention of this match and kind of the aftermath. There was a match between FTR and the Seidel brothers, Mike and Matt Seidel, who mainly, I think Mike's been on Dark a lot. FTR gets the win, but then afterwards, we see a returning Luchasaurus coming to help Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt take on FTR. It was announced on the March 3rd show we are getting a 6-man tag match between the Jurassic Express and FTR, and a returning to the ring Tully Blanchard, more than likely who won't do much, but he is going to be in that 6-man tag match. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this feud between FTR and Jurassic Express and Tully Blanchard getting back in the middle of the ring and joining this match as well?
Jovanni, why don't you lead this one off?
We better give Tully Blanchard shit. If we gave Sting shit and Sting at least is trying to wrestle, Tully looks like Pawpaw. That is an old-ass man. He is not fit for the ring anymore.
Yeah.
Which goes to my point that Tully Blanchard wasn't in the ring that one time. My biggest, longest-running conspiracy theory that the Horseman actually is a thing. We might find out on the episode when Tully's supposed to be in the ring. Maybe he's replaced by the new Horseman, hopefully.
Ooh.
But bury the lead there, man. Luchasaurus has his horns back.
Yep.
He is horny again.
Yeah, he got a new mask.
And junkies out there in the junkyard, if you want to have your horns back like Luchasaurus and you need that additional help, you can reach out to the official and unofficial sponsor of the junkyard, that is Blue Chew. Just when you need to have your horn again.
I love how you can turn just about anything into a plug for Blue Chew.
Trying to get us that contract, gentlemen.
But now the one thing that I really like about this feud is that it's accomplished one thing, if anything, and that is it's getting Jungle Boy over as a legit, like, serious threat.
Yeah,
like he's clearly going to be the breakout star of Jurassic Express. Again, I've said it in the past. The fact that Tony Khan went out and purchased the rights to Tarzan Boy really shows that, the company has plans in store for Jungle Boy. They view him as a future star. And I think this feud with FTR has really gotten that over, because remember, he had that match against Dax Harwood, and that was an amazing match. And I mean, Jungle Boy won clean with by submission. In fact, he got Dax to tap out, and I believe he got him to tap out again in that same maneuver during the skirmish and stuff. Going to Tully, though, I don't think he's going to do much, if anything. If anything, he's going to probably do some heel tactic, that's going to, that's going to get that team the win. Something's going to happen. I think he's going to get the pin on Marco Stunt. And that's so, but it is what it is. But like I said, the one thing I really love about this feud is it's gotten Jungle Boy over.
That's right. Before we move on, so Jovan, you mentioned, and it just kind of brought me back to it. You mentioned that maybe Tully was not the person in the ring who did helped FTR that one time. Before FTR came to the ring, there was a special, announcement, baby reveal. There's going to be a girl between Cody and Brandy. Yay, whatever. But Cody joined them on commentary. So that brings me back to my long-running theory that Cody will eventually join the Four Horsemen. Just kind of, that's the slowest build of all time. I know there was, he wanted to have the pyro and everything before that, but he was out for that match. So maybe still planting those seeds. Eventually, with that heel turn coming after he gets done with the Big Show, the Go Big Show, not Big Show.
Wait a minute. So you're basically saying that there's a possible long-term storytelling go on during a professional wrestling event?
Is that
exactly
illegal?
what I'm saying.
Maybe in the WWE it is.
The last thing we're going to talk about on AEW is the main event, and more so what happened after the main event. So it was Mox, Phoenix, and Archer, who all kind of came out together, coming out through the side of the entrance way through the crowd, versus Eddie Kingston and the Butcher and the Blade. Mox, Phoenix, and Archer go over the match. Then there's a big skirmish at the end, and then Kenny Omega comes out and he starts attacking Mox, hits him with some violent V triggers, and we've been wondering, who is Kenny Omega going to defend the AEW World Title against at Revolution? We found our answer. It was going to be Jon Moxley. They were going to have their rematch, but we can't just have a regular wrestling match between these two. We had to go to the land of the rising sun to get this match. So at Revolution, we are going to have an exploding barbed wire death match for the AEW World Championship between AEW World Champion Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. Guys, you can touch on the main event if you want, but what is your reaction to the announcement of the Revolution main event and this wild stipulation that more than likely a lot of people have no idea what they're in store for?
2 words in my reaction to the announcement of the main event. Holy shit. Going back to the match, though, it was a great match. It obviously marked the end of the Moxley-Kingston feud decisively. Although I think Moxley still holds out hope that one day, he and Kingston can reconcile and maybe go on a tag team run together. But, man, Ray Phoenix is amazing. I mean, that guy uses the ropes probably better than anybody out there, and this match proved it. But, it was a great match. It was wild. It went everywhere. But, yeah, obviously – this match was just the precursor to what we were just talking about, and that was the announcement of the main event for Revolution. And the one thing that I want to say that I really liked about the way they announced the match, it wasn't Moxley saying, "This is the match I want." Kenny Omega, who when he does his promos, normally doesn't raise his voice. He got very agitated. He raised his voice and said, "What do I got to do? I got to kill you, blah, blah, blah. We're going to have an exploding barbed wire death match." And the one thing that really sealed this was Mox's reaction. It looked like that was something he was not. Obviously, this would be right up Mox's alley, but even he seemed like he was caught off guard by this announcement. And I thought that was just the cherry on top of the sundae of that this announcement was.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. For this style of Kenny Omega that we're getting now, this new iteration of Kenny, to come out, do the beatdown, do the attack, and to make the announcement of the match type. And the way he made the announcement, the gusto, and to call this match a freaking exploding barbed wire death match. Gentlemen, I've already made it well known that I am a fan of the death match. I am a fan of the Mick Foley. I am a fan of the Terry Funks. I love this crap. I can't wait. This is going to be bloody. This is going to be brutal. If you thought the Lights Out match was something bad, get ready, Buttercup. You in for a rude awakening. Because this is going to be awesome.
Real quick, any idea of how far along Renee is in her pregnancy?
Far enough for Jon Moxley to lose this match and go have fun being a dad.
There you go. I think this is because that's going to and obviously when we do our prediction show for Revolution, this will probably be brought up, but just kind of a little bit of a sneak peek here. I think if she's far enough along, I think this is like the way you write off a character like John Moxley so he can go off, and be there for the birth of his child. I think this is if this is what it ends up being. I think it's you really couldn't have it in a more appropriate way and stuff.
His little girl, DDJ.
Yes, and what are the odds that someone is going to say during that match if it plays out, oh my God, they killed Moxley, you bastards, or to say, oh my God, Kenny killed Moxley?
No. We're going to get from good old JR, he's got a wife and kids, damn it.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be the AEW death, or at least storyline death, of John Moxley for a little while until he makes a triumphant return. And we get some
rise from your grave. Well, Altered Beast reference there.
Gentlemen, they have been talking about the resurgence of women's wrestling needing to happen, and we're probably going to have a big-time Junkyard episode about women's wrestling.
Yeah.
But damn it to hell, in 20 years, soak this in. You will have a woman wrestler who could possibly be kin to John Moxley, a woman wrestler who could possibly be kin to Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, a woman wrestler who is akin to Cody Rhodes. Guys, give us some time, but that's the next generation right there.
All right.
Wow.
So that's going to be like probably the female version of the Shield, right? In 20 years.
I would freaking die if Moxley's child and Seth and Becky's child forms a tag team.
And doesn't Roman have a daughter
already, or like she has to be young?
I want to say I think he's got a daughter who's like maybe 6 or 7 or something like that.
That'd probably work. That would be cool.
We could see Shield 2.0.
Yeah,
that would be funny.
And then you bring Roman, John, and Seth, and they all have them because by then John will probably find his way back to WWE because they always come back. So more than likely,
he's not going back.
Well, we'll see. More than likely, they're going to get the Hall of Fame, though, for sure. But so that's everything that happened on AEW. I know, Jovan, you want to touch on some New Japan before we move on from with the wrestling for the week?
2 things. I'm going to hit one New Japan. I'm going to hit 2 things on New Japan, then one more separate thing about Mr. John Moxley. So let's go back to the land of the rising sun, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I have been carrying a banner for these guys. New Japan Strong, one of the best hour worth of wrestling you have in a week. If you could fit in an hour, watch this show. This week's big time event. You know what? Let's save that. This week, a virtual markout alumni, Mr. Fred Roger, Mr. No Days Off, Mr. Block Hate, got himself a victory against Haikuleo. One of the greatest matches I've seen Fred put on. He looks good. He looks loose. And, I mean, he went over and got over in this match. If you have a chance, go back and watch it. Just a special shout-out because he was a member of our virtual markout. Now, to the main event of the evening. ELP from the Bullet Club, El Phantasmo, going against Leo Rush. If you know these guys, if you know their styles, just hearing that matchup should get you giddy. This match was everything and more when you think of these 2 guys going at it. High flying, very fast paced. These 2 guys have a big engine in them, and they put it all out there. Hell of a match. I would definitely love to see this again. What some higher stakes, maybe a title implication. This was greatness. If you have time, go back and watch these matches. Then finally, do it, man. New Japan Strong. Show them some love. And they've been building up Moxley and Kenta too, so it's all around build up. And there's a lot of John Moxley going around, man. He's a very busy man, but I guess he's trying to stash everything he can before this baby comes, because just tonight, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport with GCW Wrestling had him in the main event against Davey Boy Smith. If you don't know what Bloodsport is, it's more of a catch / real wrestling, real fight field of wrestling. For all of you New Japan fans, this is probably right up your alley. Everything looks very strong. For all you catch wrestling fans, this is really up your alley. If you like the Bloodsport movie of the Kumite fighting, this is up your alley. Guys, give it a try. Tonight's main event, once again, Davey Boy Smith, maybe not, future AEW superstar, going against Jon Moxley, current AEW superstar. These guys went to war. Mox got busted open the hard way. Fans know what that means. It was a great match. Of course, Mox goes over. And they may have announced that Mox's next match is going to come at Bloodsport number 6. Which is going to be in April against Josh Barnett, which would have been his very first match, but they had to delay it due to COVID. So now we're actually going to get that match. I think that may be the last match he does before the baby comes and maybe after the baby comes, because I know Renee looks like she was showing pretty much a lot. She got pretty big. So shout out to Renee Young. If you're not listening to her podcast, give her a shout out, give her a listen, because I love it, man. She's really like potty mouth, and I never knew that. But
oh, yeah, she comes like a sailor on her pod.
She does. I love it more than I'm willing to admit. But last tidbit there, guys. This is all lining up. The match between Moxley and Kenta, the match between Moxley and Omega, the match with Barnett and Moxley. We could be seeing Moxley doing his short-term farewell tour before the baby comes. Maybe it's going to be some losses. Maybe he's going to take some wins into the baby. Who knows? But right now, he's going to give you plenty of Mox before he does take his small break to be a father. Congrats to him and Renee Young, of course. But just enjoy it, man. Soak up all the wrestling you can.
So yeah, you'll definitely, if you're a big Jon Moxley fan, you will get your taste and fill of Jon Moxley for the upcoming months to come for sure. So yeah, that's gonna. Hold on, we got one more thing before we move on here. Our junkyard pick of the week. Jovan already told us his, but for the people that kind of forgot, what's your pick of the week? One more time.
I'm going with TJP versus Josh Alexander from Impact Wrestling. Go out of your way and watch that match.
All right, DDJ.
So I was going back and forth between two matches, and it was tough to decide on one. So I just decided I got a tie. The first match is TJP versus Josh Alexander, and then the other match was Riho versus Serena Deeb from AEW Dynamite. Those matches were so good. It just is so hard for me to pick one over the other. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to choose them both.
Good picks.
Yeah. Unlike sports where ties are terrible, we allow ties here on the Junkyard. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I'm going with the tag team title match between Santana Ortiz and the AEW tag team champions Young Bucks. The match was very fast paced. There were some amazing spots. It really made me appreciate Santana Ortiz a hell of a lot more in this match. Definitely, they deserve more, but for sure, go out and check all of these matches we recommended. Those are the matches you for sure need to focus on this week if you don't have much time at all in your week to watch wrestling. But that's going to end it for what happened this week in wrestling. Coming up on our weekly roundtable here in a few minutes, we're going to be talking about when wrestling takes things too far. As I alluded to earlier, there was a situation with Kyle O'Reilly after he had been attacked with Adam Cole. Reports were saying maybe, he had a seizure or something, and then WWE, NXT might have been using it in a storyline. But that turned out to be just like fans taking it too far, and it even got reported by like some major news outlets that was the case, but then they had to come out and say, no, that wasn't. So we're just going to talk about times when, wrestling takes stories, matches, like maybe you should have just cooled the brakes and gone a different direction. So let's get into it with this week's weekly roundtable. All All right, so we're back to talk on this week's weekly roundtable, and as I talked about earlier, we're going to be talking about when wrestling takes things just a little bit too far, maybe even to the extreme. There have been moments throughout past history, WWE, Impact, New Japan, ECW, any promotion you can name, where there's storylines and maybe they use real life and put them into the storylines, and that causes a lot of bad blood, or maybe they do an angle that's very distasteful and it's like, do you guys really think you should have done that? So that's kind of what we're going to focus on here. We're going to talk about like moments, matches, anything that's like, hey, you shouldn't have done that. So I'll lead it off with you guys. Where do you guys want to take this, and start with when wrestling takes things too far, your moment or match?
One that I've always thought was a little much, and it was rarely actually something that was so controversial that a certain WWE Hall of Famer who was attending his very first ECW show basically caused him to walk out on during the middle of the show, and I believe he actually almost sued Paul Heyman over this, and that because I also believe that Heyman was trying to get him to come to work for ECW. I'm gonna go with the night that Raven crucified the Sandman. If you guys have ever watched an ECW show, you know how hot that crowd is always for an ECW show, and I didn't really know much about this until I think it was during the when the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD came out back in 2005, and I remember watching this. There was an angle where Raven had control over the Sandman's wife and son, and during this particular event, I believe we were being led to believe that maybe the Sandman's son Tyler had broken free of Raven's spell and was going to reconcile with his dad. We got the hug in the ring, and the next thing Raven comes out, attacks him, and it was all a ruse. And one thing led to another, and basically it led to Raven literally crucifying the Sandman, cross the barbed wire on the wrist and on the head, to represent, I believe, the crown of thorns, and that. And it's just the only time I think I've ever heard the ECW arena go silent was this. And there are just certain things, like I said, I'm not a religious guy. I'm not going to pretend to be, but I mean, there are certain things where it's just even in ECW where it's just that's a little much. That's too far. And this was one of those cases. And it was so bad that after the show, Raven went back out to the ring and basically, out of character, they, apologized to the, ECW fans for going this route. And I believe he said something along the lines, I was going through some personal stuff and you guys respected me. So, I'm going to return the favor, and if this angle offended anyone, I apologize, which is something that you would never see someone like Raven do. And like I said, religion is a part of life. Religion is a part of our society, our culture, and that. And, obviously a lot of times wrestling draws its storylines from, things going on in pop culture, religion, all that stuff. But this just, something like this is such a hot button topic, even to this day. And it's just, there's certain things there's certain places you don't go. And in my opinion, this was one of them.
My first one for when wrestling takes it too far. Gentlemen, I take you back to 2002. A fresh upstart by the name of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, or Triple H, is champion. And his challenger is a certain Big Red Machine, Kane. And during the build-up for their big match, it's revealed by Triple H that Kane is a murderer. Kane had one too many drinks and got into a car accident with his girlfriend, Katie Vick. This led to numerous things from Triple H, calling Kane a murderer, trying to, get into the Big Red Machine's mind by playing mind games with it, by using Katie Vick against Kane. But Not as if vehicular manslaughter wasn't far enough. This was 2002, baby. We had to take it a step farther.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Triple H at a makeshift funeral, open casket of a Katie Vick in a cane mask with the cane hair. He fondles the Katie Vick inside the casket, and he would go on to perform Love with Her. On live TV, full-on necrophilia, Kane loves dead girls. As if we didn't go far enough with the drunk driving, we went as far as to say Kane is making out with the dead girl. Ladies and gentlemen, this is by far the absolute worst angle ever devised by a wrestling company. Not only did they take it a step too far with the cause of her death, that's nothing to joke about, but they went ahead with the whole necrophilia. It was just terrible. There was no reason for it. Absolutely nothing came from the storyline. There was no big payoff. It just exists as a shameful mark on the company.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just one of the things, like when there's a storyline or something, if it's, it leads to a good result, maybe the controversy or, the distastefulness of the storyline is actually worth, the end payoff. But at this point, no, it never should have happened. And I think, WWE looks back on it and they try to avoid it as much as possible, but it happened. It's there on the network, so people can still go back to it. So with my first one, I want to come to a more recent one. Just last year, Jeff Hardy, he's had an issue with, substance abuse and alcohol abuse, and he's working on getting better, but he's had a few slips. But WWE was like, hey, you know what? Let's put that in a real life, storyline here. So we started on an episode of SmackDown back in March where they started off like with, a wrecked car and everything. And officers were finding a bottle of booze and everything. And then they arrested Jeff Hardy saying, you were driving drunk. You got in an accident. Then Elias was pulled out on a stretcher. But it turned out, to kind of be a big ruse. And that's kind of started a feud with Sheamus, who, was trying to always encourage Hardy to drink and everything. And, that's just, it was an okay feud, but just the whole storyline, implementing, putting, his real life experience and troubles and everything into the storyline was just in bad taste. I know it got a ton of negative reaction online. Just if you're not a WWE fan and you walk in, one episode of SmackDown, you see this angle, it could immediately turn people away, and it did. Jeff went on record, he said he understood the storyline, it could be controversial and, it's putting his real life issues into the storyline, but he was like, hey, the payoff and everything's going to be worth it. I honestly don't think so, but hey, Jeff wants to do what he wants to do, but from a fan's point of and perspective, I think it was a very distasteful choice, and they've done this in the past with his substance abuse. And there was a point where I think he did an angle with CM Punk, like the straight edge thing, and then CM Punk was straight edge, but Jeff Hardy with alcohol. It's been mixed multiple times in multiple storylines, multiple companies. When he was at TNA, it's just seeing them. Jeff, I know, wants to help build a good story, but honestly, that's something I don't think you should focus on anywhere. And I think the time is done. Hopefully we don't ever have to hear about any of that anymore. We just move on and let Jeff wrestle.
So for my next one, and actually this is one I kind of thought of as you were talking, and you mentioned the guy that's the subject of this, so I'm going to actually segue into this. Back in 2012, CM Punk was riding high as WWE champion. He was in the midst of his 434-day reign as champion. But come WrestleMania time, he had a very good match with Chris Jericho that he went over, but that wasn't the end of the story. They would continue on, and they would bring alcohol into the picture, and basically they were trying to go from CM Punk to CM Drunk. And basically anyone that, has followed CM Punk's career knows he's, his straight edge thing, it's not a gimmick. That's his way of life. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't do drugs. And I really felt uncomfortable watching, Jericho bring the bottle of whatever it was, the booze and stuff, and basically pouring it all over Punk. And then I think like a couple weeks later, Punk comes out, acting like he's drunk and stuff. And then it's just the alcohol addiction is a very real thing. And I can see the point of, we're just trying to, tell these stories and stuff, but there's just some things I think places you don't go. And much in the case with Jeff Hardy, who, has been through it and is trying to get himself clean, much like CM Punk, who doesn't do that stuff, period. I don't think it's morally right for like the WWE to say, we don't, you may be straight edge and all that, but this storyline, you're going to have, alcohol dumped all over you. You're going to come out one time acting like you're drunk and stuff. And I think that's too much.
I think they brought his alcoholic father in the storyline too.
Yes, they did.
It's terrible.
Yeah, too much.
Guys, for my next one, I'm going to go with a different type of character assassination. One AJ Styles, Spencer Cantor's favorite wrestler.
Exactly.
Back in this wonderful place known as TNA, there was a storyline that for some reason AJ Styles was with Dixie Carter. That wasn't extreme enough, so they took it even further. And now AJ Styles had an illegitimate child with Claire Lynch.
Oh, boy.
And for some reason, Kazarian and Daniels were the ones pushing this narrative. And at the time, they were actually feuding. They weren't a tag team. They weren't SCU. This was pre that. So they're trying to say that AJ Styles is a big piece of crap. He's cheated on his wife with Claire Lynch. Claire Lynch is pregnant with his love child. They had all these horrible videos shot with her acting like she's in bed next to an AJ Styles. And, peek behind the curtain here is they only got Claire Lynch for that one time because she was a failed actress, but she got so much hate from the wrestling community and death threats over what they were alleging she was doing with AJ Styles because people knew AJ wasn't like that she quit.
Mm-hmm.
She only made that one appearance, and when her name got leaked, the hate mail started coming, she quit. Then to find out, since she didn't come back to work, it was all a ruse, it was all a lie. AJ was never unfaithful to his wife. There was no love child. It was just Kaz and Daniels trying to get him off of his game. There was no payoff. There was no reason for the angle. Anybody that knows AJ Styles, he is a devout family man.
Mm-hmm.
This man is a very big Christian. It is very well noted how he feels about his faith. He's not the one to have this cheating angle with.
Yeah.
The wrestling, the inner workings of the actual wrestling community, the guys in the back, this is a little bit of a talking shop moment. Cheating is rampant in that lifestyle. You're on the road, city to city. You pick up a different one every night. You just get them going. That's how it goes. But for a wrestler like AJ Styles, who honestly did not partake, and to have him thrown in that kind of storyline with no payoff, that was unexcusable, TNA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Terrible. All right. So my next kind of more moment about a thing that honestly we didn't need to see on WWE television, and that was after Edge won his first WWE championship after beating Cena at New Year's Revolution after cashing in Money in the Bank. There was a certain celebration between the aforementioned Edge and Lita, the infamous live sex celebration in the middle of the ring. One thing we thankfully have not seen ever since. It was just a one-time thing. But in this segment, if you don't know, It is basically Edge and Lita celebrating the win and having kayfabe sex in the middle of the ring with the bed and everything. There was even a shot of Edge pulling off Lita's panties and having them in his mouth. This delighted Vince McMahon. He enjoyed the angle, but, we're still feeling the effects of this one, or Lita is, and she came out just recently, few months ago or so, and said she was going to be fired from the WWE if she did not participate in this angle. So she had to go forward with it. And then Edge, still not being like a newcomer, but, still wanting to keep his push and everything, he just went along with it as well. But, it's what I didn't see it live, but, you can go back and watch it online, just kind of see just the uncomfortableness of the crowd just having to watch this moment live. This is a moment when this is something that should have been left on the cutting room floor, or maybe like fan fiction or something. This is something like we shouldn't have seen on, WWE television, and definitely would not be seen anytime today. The closest they've ever got with any of this is like, they have like the cheating angles or anything in the hotel room. That's about it. Like, this was the first time this was ever done on a WWE television show, and thankfully it's the last and hopefully won't be again. So that's just more something that was done as, a distasteful moment, and when wrestling just took it just a little bit too far.
There was children in that stadium.
Exactly.
Children's.
Yeah.
It's like Helen Lovejoy, the wife of Reverend Lovejoy from who Spencer would not know because he doesn't watch that show. To think of the children.
Will somebody please think of the children?
Well, no, I watch WandaVision, and all they keep saying is for the children.
Wu-Tang group is for the children. Wu-Tang Clan.
All right, DDJ, what's your next one here?
So I got two more here that I want to discuss. And one name seems to be coming across these quite often, or when we're talking about these, we're bringing up this one person, and he is actually the subject of the last two I'm going to talk about. And that is one, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Seems like wherever he goes, controversy or something in poor taste. Back when I first talked about Raven crucifying the Sandman, I talked about how religion is such a huge part of our society. And this one here, no doubt, is the same. I'm going back to 2006, the whole Mr. McMahon, Shawn Michaels storyline that was stemming off the fact that Shawn Michaels was telling Vince to get over, the fact that he screwed Brett, that Vince screwed Brett. Like Shawn's like, it's over, it's done with, let's move on. And that's when Vince decided to turn his attention to HBK. They had a really good match at WrestleMania, a nice street fight. But after that, basically McMahon went after Michaels and his religion. It got to the point where it was basically the match at Backlash was booked. It was Vince and Shane McMahon versus Shawn Michaels and his tag team partner for the night, God. I mean, and he got an entrance where it's just basically a spotlight, going down the ramp to the ring and stuff. It was basically, what? If you're going to do a handicap match, just make it a handicap match. Don't say it's Shawn Michaels and God. Because, again, a lot of people that follow professional wrestling, are also religious people. And they take their religion very seriously. They take it to heart. It's a driving factor in the way that they live their daily lives. So it's just for Vince McMahon just to go out of his way to say that he's bigger than, he's more powerful than God. That's too much. I mean, again, I'm not a religious guy. I've never fancied myself as being one, nor do I ever see myself going, being a religious guy. But it's just, I don't know sometimes what goes on in his head to, where he thinks something like this is a good idea. And the thing is he can basically say anything is a good idea and it'll get on TV because he's got so many yes men working for him. He's got so many people that have the fear of, if I don't do what the boss says, I'm going to lose my job. And I think that is a major problem with WWE. It was back then and it continues to be. But yeah, this whole thing with got McMahon versus God is just that's too much. Stuff like that. You don't go there.
Exactly. All right, Jovan.
My last one kind of goes into that forbidden territory of where you just don't touch.
Yeah.
When a fan favorite passes away, you honor them, you let wrestlers honor them, and you leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Best point in case, Mr. Brody Lee.
Absolutely.
Brody Lee passed, had a hell of a send-off on Dynamite. Hell of a send-off. And then all of the just the commemorative things. Brody Lee being on the New Day's gear, Brody Lee armbands, Dark Order still pushing Brody Lee, pushing -1.
Brody Lee hit a micro brawler that I believe was the highest seller out of all the Wave 1 AEW micro brawlers, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Tastefully honoring who he was. We lost a legend in Eddie Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
My personal top 2 of all time. And when Eddie passed, the show must go on. It's the way he would have wanted it. Eddie was the consummate professional. He loved the business. It's all he knew. It's all the Guerrero knew was how to wrestle. When he passed, Vince, and I don't want to say Vince because I don't know if it was Vince who came up with the angle. Probably was. There was an angle between Chavo Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Chavo felt like Rey was using Eddie's name as a means to get over, that Rey was trying to leech off of the Guerrero name, and Chavo wanted that for himself. It was his uncle. He's the one that should be benefiting off of his name, not Rey Mysterio. Make it even worse. They double down this horrible, horrible feud by having a recently widowed Vicky Guerrero take sides with Chavo Guerrero, making her heel turn. I get maybe Vicky needed the money. It's a way to keep Eddie's name out there. It's a way for them to still be able to push and give her some money by having her go on screen. But this was in poor taste.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie had passed. We were still reeling. Eddie and Rey were close. Eddie was Chavo's uncle. They were basically brothers because of how they were raised in age.
Yep.
We did not need to see he means more to me. No, he means more to me. No, it's my name. It's my uncle. We didn't need that. In a time where everyone should have unified and should have been putting on shows for Eddie Guerrero the way they unified and put on the show for Brody Lee, we got the complete opposite. We got something that honestly tarnished the name Guerrero and really made you not even think of Eddie. None of that glorified Eddie Guerrero. It just left a mark on his name. So that wrestling, that was a horrible, horrible decision.
And one thing I kind of want to add to that is let's not forget, it wasn't long after Eddie passed where they had that segment on where they had the low rider on stage in SmackDown. And I believe Randy Orton dumped The Undertaker in the trunk and then he backed it through the stage and setting off explosions and stuff like that. I thought that was like in poor taste as well, too.
Yes.
That's so. All right, Spence, what else you got?
DDJ, I'll let you take this last one and then I'm going to finish off with my last one.
So once again, Vince McMahon. Again, it seems like he's a recurring theme in this. We give this next guy a lot. A lot of people have given this next guy a lot of crap lately over his commentary because he doesn't seem to have. He's not on point like he used to be, and that's good old JR. A lot of people consider him to be the greatest voice in the history of professional wrestling. I can't argue, against that. I think in terms of a voice, I would agree. He's not my favorite part. He's not part of my favorite duo of all time, but that's for another day. I don't know why he feels he needed to do this every single chance he got, but all the times that Vince McMahon has made fun of Jim Ross and his Bell's palsy.
Yes.
And like all his other health issues. The main thing I want to talk about was I think he was still with the company at the time, but he had taken some time off because he was having some issues, I believe, with his colon. And then they did that whole thing where I think Vince McMahon played like Dr. Heine, and they were basically, doing this thing where like they had a Jim Ross mask or like a mannequin or something like that, basically the operating table. And basically Vince McMahon as Dr. Heine was going in and pulling all this stuff out of Jim Ross's ass.
Yeah.
One of the last things that I think he pulled out was a Jim Ross head. He said, I pulled Jim Ross's head out of his own ass and stuff like that. And he's also done multiple times where he's made fun of the Bell's palsy. It takes me, it's just stuff like that reminds me of, the times on the schoolyard when you would see, the bullies making fun of, a kid because he looked different, because he acted different, because he had something wrong with him. And, I've witnessed that, and stuff, and it's just seeing that growing up broke my heart. Seeing that these days, with what it leads kids to do these days. I'm not going to go there because, again, completely different subject. There's no place for it in society, and there's definitely no place for stuff like that in the world of professional wrestling. Like I said, the biggest problem with the WWE is that everybody performs for an audience of one, that one person being Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is putting on the show he wants to see. He's not putting on the show that the fans want to see. And he for him, I don't know where he gets off thinking that stuff like this, stuff like Katie Vick, stuff like what they did with Eddie Guerrero, basically everything that we've talked about, the stuff with Jeff Hardy. I don't know what goes on in his mind to think that all this stuff is actually a good idea, because I think every single thing we've seen, or I should say that we've discussed on this, has really, I don't think there's anybody out there that looks at any of this in a positive light. There is, so be it and stuff, but I just think stuff like that. I don't want to watch that when I'm watching my wrestling on Mondays and every day of the week.
I love how you put it to the bully mentality, because right before you said it, you were describing it, and I said, yeah, it's like a damn bully. And when you said it, it clicked, and I was 100% with you there, man. That's 100% what it is. It's somebody being a big bully who has power over everything. So that hell of a take. I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, DJ. That's a great take. The bully mentality. Great way to look at that for sure. And to wrap up what you guys have to say, one last thing I want to talk about, because Jovan has mentioned we are going to do a Junkyard special on the state of women's wrestling today, past, future, present, all that. If you are interested, please let us know. Reach out to myself, Spencer Cantor on Facebook, or any of these gentlemen, Dennis Day Jr., Jovan Menacho. Reach out to them, let them know. I've already got a few requests. Only have a few slots available. Don't want to take up too much airtime here, but we definitely will get you if you're interested. But my last point is I kind of want to talk about as I mentioned, we are going to talk about how, women's wrestling was in the past and the future and present and everything. Like in the past in WWE and just even other promotions. And still honestly today, and it's not getting the respect. It is getting more respect now, but back in the day, really it wasn't. There was, bra and panty matches, pudding matches, pillow fight matches, all these matches that, were entertaining to, some people back in the day. And of course, Vince, if you're in the WWE, but there were actually some very talented women that when they actually got the chance to wrestle, they showed that they actually could go, but they were stuck in all these kind of gimmick matches and all these matches like, oh yeah, these women, they look sexy and they're hot, we got to put them in all these scantily clad outfits and all these awful gimmick matches, don't really need to give them time to wrestle. So that was back in the day, and honestly just all that was in poor taste and just terrible booking, but that's a whole different story there. But it's now with everything going the way it is now with, we've had great matches with women's wrestlers. We had, like really this all started, coming back to forefront with like when Lita and Trish were wrestling. And then now current days, we have the Four Horsemen, the match with Bayley and Sasha, all the stuff going on with AEW, them prominently feature women's wrestling tag team belts and Impact. Back then, just the way the women were treated to now, just looking back at it, and we'll talk about it more when we do get to our women's Junkyard special. It's just sickening and disgusting. We are three guys here, and yes, we know we do our our blue chew spots and everything, but we understand that and we respect women's wrestling, and we do the list, but that is just seeing that stuff. Like, yes, back then people could enjoy it, but just looking back on it now with the state of women's wrestling, it's just a disgrace, and I can't believe that even made it to airwaves. So that's
real quick before you go into your last thing here. Just a couple things I want to say is one, if I could, I would love to be able to go back in time and smack the crap out of my 17, 18-year-old past self for thinking that watching Sable versus Jacqueline in a bikini match, was actually made for entertaining TV, because now I look back and realize that wasn't good. And then again, secondly, when it comes to the women and the way they used to be portrayed, versus they are now, the women want us fans to take them seriously, much like the men do. And I think it's a crime that it's taken this long to get to that point. But I mean, I feel for, the people like, Trish back in the day, Lita, Tori Wilson, Ivory, all these women that had the talent, but, were relegated to, like you said, the bra and panties, the gravy bowl matches, the putty matches, just stupid stuff that it looking back on it, it wasn't good. That's so, but I just wanted to get that out there. Sorry, Spence, continue, please.
No, you're good. Jovan, do you have anything to mention on that before we take this home?
I am going to throw in a little bit here.
Okay.
Women's wrestling, the state of it now, we've seen an all-female-led pay-per-view in Evolution.
Yeah.
That needs to continue. We haven't had one since. I don't know why. The talent is there. WWE, utilize your roster.
Yes.
To hit that point home, WWE doesn't even have the most impressive women's roster.
No.
Impact Wrestling, in my opinion, has one of the deepest women's rosters now. AEW is building one of the deeper women's rosters as well. They know that it was a weakness going in. They have worked on it. We are showing progression and some gains. They're going to get better. All of that to say this. When we do this special, I do want to speak with our female listeners, our lady listeners of the Junkyard, and see how they think of intergender wrestling, because that's a fun topic to kind of throw out there. But another one to leave out there, and this is going to be a wild one, and it's going to be a little bit of a loop, and I understand, and stick with me. Women's wrestling in the future. Do we see it align more with the intergender wrestling style, or do we see them getting more airway time? Are they going to be something that we're actually demanding to see? Case in point right now with All Elite Wrestling. Fans are petitioning to have more of the women on screen.
Mm-hmm.
With a company that size, they don't have a lot of time to get everything out that they want. Yes, there is a need for a second show. Yes, there is a need for additional time to get everything out there for everybody. But is the answer more time for the women? Is the answer integration so there's no longer men, women? Is there the answer somewhere in between? Is it going to be where we see the Jordan Graces become champions in what is considered a dominant man championship? Your Tessa Blanchard's breaking the wall down and becoming a heavyweight champion. Where do we go from here? Where do the fans want it to go? And how can we break the stigma of the women wrestlers only being there to be eye candy? Because, guys, I hate to break it to you fellas of the Junkyard. I hate to break it to you people who don't know this already. But damn it, most of these women, if not all, are way more athletic than we are. And when they're given the chance, they don't just put on bangers. They don't just shock the system because you never thought women could do this. No, they shock the system because we've never seen wrestlers do the things that they're capable of doing. Because at the end of the day, they're not female wrestlers. Damn it, they are pro wrestlers. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Brilliant. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this, and a very nice tease to when we have our Junkyard special on the state of women's wrestling. So definitely going to answer all those questions and more whenever that drops. So guys, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Junkyard. Make sure you guys follow us on our social media accounts at PW_Junkies on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. When you're on YouTube, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all the great content we have coming on there. Make sure you guys join our Facebook page, Pro Wrestling Junkies. Join our Pro Wrestling Junkies marketplace where you can buy, sell, trade. Feel safe. You don't have to worry about any issues. And if there is, just hit up an admin. We'll definitely take care of you. And then make sure you guys go to prowrestlingtees.com/Pro Wrestling Junkies. Get yourself some Pro Wrestling Junkies merch. You can grab one of those What Do You Say with DDJ shirts, or you can grab one of actually some Pro Wrestling Junkies merch with our Pro Wrestling Junkies logo. Be a babyface, not a heel, and a Such Good Shoot shirt with a Junkyard shirt soon to follow. The design's looking great. We just got a few things to make some changes on, and then once that's live, we will put that up and make that the top seller. I believe in you, Junkyard. I know you guys can do it. But you can follow me on my personal Twitter account at number11SC, and hit me up on Facebook at Spencer Cantor. Definitely try to be active when I can while I'm working. So hit me up and let's talk. But guys, let them know where you can find you.
You can find me on Facebook as Dennis Day Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at Dennis W. Day Jr. You can follow my podcast on Twitter at Whaddya Say DDJ. And my show also has a Facebook page as well. Just type in Whaddya Say with DDJ. Yeah, that's all I got.
Fantastic, brother. No cheap pop. It's all great pops tonight.
Great pops.
We got, you know what? We give these great pop. We do these great pops. We get these great pops out there because we got to keep giving the people what they want.
And ladies and gentlemen, if the people want to connect with me, Jovanni Hotty off of the Junkyard, you can hit me up on the Twitter machine at Jovanni Hotty. You can also hit me up on the Facebook page, the Pro Wrestling Junkies page. If you're not there, what are you doing with your life? You're already halfway there because you listen to us.
Yeah.
So join the page, join the fun, get into the real madness. See the Junkyard behind the Junkyard is the Facebook page, Pro Wrestling Junkies. I'm there under Jovan Menacho. I'm glad to be there and talk with all of you guys. You know, hey, go in there. Let us know you want to be a part of the women's episode. Let us know that you want to be part of our New Japan episode. Anytime we ask for people to come on, go in there. Let us know that you're interested. We know we have a cult following, a core group of people, but hey, just drop a line and let the Junkyard know that the yard is growing. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely trying to expand that yard. And as we have mentioned before, we got that women's special coming up. But coming up before that, we are going to have our New Japan guide for dummies, like 101. Already have our people that we want to join us for that. Maybe possibly might be a part 2 because we are seeing there are a lot of New Japan fans and people that are very knowledgeable that are missing out on this opportunity. So whatever we don't cover, we might do a part 2 or a 102. So definitely keep those recommendations coming. Hit us up on the Pro Wrestling Junkies page or any of our personal Facebook accounts. But that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of the Junkyard. So, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We appreciate anybody. Make sure you guys leave a comment and a 5-star review if you listen on Apple Podcasts. So, guys, we'll catch you down the road. So have a great night, great morning, whenever you're listening to this. See you guys later. Goodbye. Good night. Junkies out. Bang.